Hello, hello. I welcome you. I'm happy to imagine you on your mat. And as I think of many, many yogis out there, I like to think of you in a variety of settings and times of day and all the different ways that you each find your way to the mat. I'm asking today and this week in general, how are you? How's life? How is your body? How's your quality of thought? How's your sleep? How's your balance, if you will, of joy along with other stuff? There's a wonderful quote that I came across again just the other day that says, "At the height of laughter, the universe is flung into a kaleidoscope of possibilities." It's by Jean Houston. And I love, first of all, that image, the kaleidoscope, that it's amazing, right? All the colors, shapes. And it was just such a wonderful reminder to me of the power of laughter. And then I actually got to be outdoors with some old friends who hadn't seen each other in a long time. And I got to watch one person who's particularly funny say something, and all of us kind of ha ha ha, our bodies kind of rock back and forth, or a slapping of the knee. And it was such a great reminder that laughter plays upon our body. It literally, pumps and fluctuates our abdomen, much like crying does. And they say there's a really fine line between grief and grieving and laughter and uproarious joy. So I'm just, I guess, putting that out there as a general principle, a point of inquiry. How much laughter are you having? And is there a presence of laughter and joyfulness that can balance out what other forms of stress, grief, fear, anger, or anything else that you might feel? And a reminder that we don't have good and bad emotions. We certainly have the ones that we're uncomfortable with, but I'd like to propose that those ones that we're uncomfortable with have a really strong value and they have a place in our life. And I think our biggest challenge is figuring out how to healthily be present with the thoughts and feelings and then also move them through our body. So I'm circling back again now to that idea that we can't have a thought without it translating into a body chemistry response. It's like, it's been shown. It's great because, the old Buddhist monk and yogis of thousands of years ago have known this and have studied this in their own science before we had brain scans and you could test the body chemistry and the levels of stress hormones and so on running through our system. But we now can test all that, and we've been able to see very, very quickly the power of thinking. So that then also takes us to the power of words. And I want to remind us to, of course, be watchful of our own thinking and our own language, and hopefully more able to observe the effects of those thoughts on our bodies. Sleep is one great way to notice. If you're having a lot of flip-floppy, tossing around sleep, part of it might be that you've been living in a lot of thinking that has got you all stirred up. And so I would ask you to make sure that you're giving attention to the kinds of thoughts that are soothing, calming, harmonizing, that create and cultivate wholeness. And in fact, that's one of our responsibilities, I feel, to each other, to our loved ones and the people in our family, but also our larger communities. So we have a responsibility, certainly, to be present with the challenging, intense emotions of fear, anger, and so on, and grief, and also an intense responsibility to make sure that we are cultivating and putting our attention on things that make us sigh, that make us happy, that make us laugh. So if you've not laughed in a long time, find your friend who makes you laugh and call them up, or watch a great movie. I also find that for me sometimes to go from a state of seriousness to laughter, I have to just be present enough to notice how much playful, beautiful stuff there is, and to not go, oh yeah, but to really be present with it. So returning our attention there. So we're going to do that by coming into our bodies. That's what we do on our mat practice. And it's one of the reasons this practice is so important, is that it supports our awakenedness as we move out beyond the mat. And that awakenedness or self-observation that we're cultivating is called swadhyaya in Sanskrit. So self-observation. So when you're ready, please join me on your back body. We're going to come into breath attention, and really come into this amazing universe that holds both fear, grief, anger, joy, laughter, curiosity. So it's not just both, it's kaleidoscope of emotions and awarenesses. We're amazing, amazing beings. Let's come on to back body. So as you settle onto your back, take a moment to scan the back of your body and notice where you are in contact with your mat or the floor. And as you're noticing the points of contact, you'll also be able to observe the points that rise up and leave the floor. And making your way all the way down from the head, eventually to the heels, your last point of contact. And as we do a few sighing breaths, invite on those exhales any part of you that is lifted, that is kind of waiting for something to happen, to truly sink in to gravity and this moment. Inhaling slow, deep, and wide through the nose. Letting your cheeks get heavy again. And now closing the mouth, letting the breath move slowly in and out the nose, and asking you to have your attention on the nostrils and upper lip, and to first observe the subtle sensations of breath moving through that area. How much are you feeling at the opening of the nostrils, or deeper inside the nose, on the upper lip itself? Is there a temperature difference of the inhale and the exhale? Turn your gaze up and in. You're looking behind the center of the forehead. And from there, again, very aware of breath. You might, when you're ready, add your soft ujjayi, throat contraction, great sounding breath. And while this has only been just a few moments of being turned inward, be curious, has it shifted anything in you? Is this nice? Is this a lovely kind of soothing thing to just be still and quiet, turned inward, nothing to know, do, or accomplish? This is our yoga. Is there any particular kind of energy or attention that you've been trying or wanting to cultivate? I've been meditating a lot on the word peace, and sometimes letting my mind just ramble onto all the different kinds of peace, layers in my own self, my own life, other people, the life out there, the world, the earth, you name it. What holds your attention or interests you right now? And is there any particular word that you think could really bring your being into attention with something powerful, for you at this time. Please take the next few breaths to try and locate that best mantra, that best single word for this time. Please observe the pause, the gap between the turns of the breath. This is such an important moment. In fact, we call it the moment of 1,000 possibilities. Again, spaciousness, creating possibility. If we are full to overflowing, there's no room for anything new, whether it's insight or, again, being present with something that just delights us or cracks us up. Inhaling gap, exhaling gap, and getting into the habit of asking, is there more? Let's take that into our compression and expansion. So the next time you're exhaling, a firm drawing down of the abdomen towards the spine and trying to get rid of that arch, that lifting away from the mat. Emptying, emptying, emptying. Is there more? If you can whisper, there's still breath in there. When there's nothing left, soften. Let the spinal curve return and the inhale begin to flow up the body. Is there more? Expand it and let's go again. Exhaling, compression. So when I'm doing this deep anchoring of the low back, the pelvis should curl up as a result. I'm not using my butter thighs to make it happen. It's simply the downward pressure through that lower abdomen as well as the rest of my rib cage. Bam. It's like I should be able to press a scale on or something like that. I also sometimes say, imagine you're emptying air out of an old air mattress. And again, on that inhale, really inviting breath at the very end into that upper lobe of the lungs. So thinking about that upper space kind of by the clavicle. Good, we're going to do just a couple more. And invitation if you'd like to turn it into rock pose. So I'm compressing down and now I'm tightening the whole body. Shoulder heads anchoring, butt cheeks squeezing in thighs. Squeezing thighs. Oh, I can't even say it. You know what I mean? And of course, softening on the inhale. So sometimes when we're just kind of perpetually tight, we're stressed in some way, one of the best things we can do is actually tighten more and really wake up all our muscular fiber and tissue and then say, this is how we relax. You know, let's just do a few more. If you want to turn it into a sit-up and build a little heat, please do. So on your exhale, compression, rock pose, and possibly a sit-up, raising the lower and the upper body. Remember, shoulder heads stay anchored. On our last one, I'm going to do a little bellows breath, rapidly in and out through the nose while kind of pumping my arms like little wings. And inhaling, release those arms overhead, and you can just begin stretching organically, rolling wrists and so on. And at some point, you might clasp one wrist and reach, and the other. We did some really good shoulder work in last week's classes. Between that and some gardening, I'm really feeling those shoulder muscles, so it's nice to stretch them out. And when you're complete, please bring those knees into belly. And a little rocking side to side. You might roll your head side to side, especially if you think you took on tension during rock pose. We don't need to use the neck, but a lot of us have the habit of doing so. Go ahead and roll all the way onto your left side, embryo pose. Try to have those knees higher or the same height as the hips, not further down. And if you can reach it with that left arm and then actively reach out behind with that right arm. Notice that I've got my legs stacked here, that I'm not having one leg up and so on.
And this is wonderful because then the low body is anchored and the spine is safe and therefore feels free to kind of unwind and be pumped with the breath. And you can circle the arms, you can explore space, and perhaps you feel like extending that top leg. Today when I do it, I'm like, that doesn't feel that good to me. I'm going to return to the anchored pose. And of course, activating breath deeply in this shape. When you're ready, you'll switch to the other side. You might just do a little kind of flow the way I did, or you might kind of slowly scooch to the other side. A lot of it depends on how your back is feeling, right? So if you're having any instability in your low back, in fact, one of the poses that we're doing today is really fantastic and fun, but could be challenging for some people's backs, knees, so on. It's eagle pose. So you'll want to do some of the prep for eagle, but you'll want to be very cautious with the pose, and I'll get into that more when we're there. So find your best place of stretch here and take a nice deep, deep breath. Light connection to the tip of the tongue, soft ujjayi, soft gaze. If you're opening your eyes, remember we want to often find a drishti gaze, a soft sort of daydream-like focus. Our eyes are not darting around the room because we want our attention inward. You could extend the leg again as I offered on the other side. When you're complete, come on back and just briefly, please, few breaths, press up into your bridge. I'm going to do a little pumping, kind of letting my hips lower and then raising. And if your neck doesn't mind keeping the chin towards the chest, like so, you can actually get a nice pumping of your thyroid there. It's really good for thyroid health, just really activating that gland. If it pulls on the back of the neck, then instead raise the chin up and back. Last one. And release. We'll bring knees to belly. We're going to come into our robot. I want to get us powerfully into our low belly. And of course, it really gets the whole core involved. So if this is new to you, you haven't done it in a long time or what have you, please join me in doing legs only. And when you are ready, take those legs forward. Actually, before you move your legs, power down through the back. Get that complete contact that you had during compression. Then slowly take the knees away from you until you think you've got like a 90-degree angle in knees and hips. Then I'm going to take my legs apart, parallel but active, feet flexed, neck soft. Big inhale. You can always relax that core anchoring if you need to while you're not in active robot. Always activate back down before sending one heel towards the floor. Try to keep the other leg neutral. It's going to want to come towards you. Don't let it. And come on back. Bam. Keep that core rooted. Inhale here in neutral. Exhale, anchor, and slowly take the other heel towards the floor. Neck stays soft. Keep that other leg stable. Come on back. Good. Take another long inhale in neutral. Exhale, take your other leg down. And this time I'm going to pause in flight, as I call it. So with that heel towards the floor or lightly touching. Big inhale here. Make sure you're pushing the back into the floor while you're expanding the belly with breath. Exhale, come on back. Inhale, neutral. I'm letting my back go for a moment. Exhale, rerouting. Take that other leg down. Pause. Inhale, in flight. Exhale, come on back. Good, and relax. Let's take those feet one more time to the floor for bridge pose, and we're going to come into our bridge with leg extensions. This is, as you know, one of my favorite things to do daily as a way to stabilize the low back and pelvis. So slowly extending one leg. You might pause and notice, did your hip drop? Restabilize. Try not to use the neck. This should be all coming from, in fact, that standing leg is doing a big part of it. If that flying leg drops, it may be that we need to talk to the standing leg and glute. When you've gone back and forth a few times, come on down. Nice. We're going to come on up to seated, roll out wrists and so on. So we're going to be doing some preparation for a pose called eagle. And I'm going to just show you briefly what that pose is, and then we're going to lay back down again, and we're going to do some preparation that helps us experience it without the balancing part, okay? And you might never ever do full eagle pose, okay? Because your legs may not allow the flexibility, or the knees may not like it, and I'll talk through that. But full eagle pose, very quickly, is standing on one leg, crossing the other leg, if possible, hooking the foot in behind. I will give options later. And then we're crossing the arms in the opposite way. So my right leg is over left, so I'm going to take my left arm over right, and ideally I might be touching my palms. You know, not obviously at the same exact alignment, because that doesn't work, but my fingers of my right hand are at least anchored on the palm of the left. And in this pose particularly, it's wonderful because you get to focus your vision, kind of that drishti gaze out over the hands, and that does help with the balance. We also have our focus in the floor leg. But to get rid of the balance aspect of that, so you can just safely kind of explore what's going on in your hips and knees today, I want you to come on back down to the floor, and then we're going to just take that right knee first of all and hug it, and just see what you can do as far as getting it close to your chest. And then see if you can take your left hand to your foot. And if not, you could always grab a strap, right, and just put it around your ankle. You could also just do reclined pigeon, which is a pose by now I think we're all pretty familiar with. So when you're ready, just sort of take that foot and press your knee to the outside and bring it back. We've also done a seated version of this called good foot, where you're kind of cradling the foot and going, oh, good foot. Same kind of idea, rocking it side to side. Marvelous. And let's release other side. Bring that left knee in nice and tight. And you can see I've got my right leg planted, and so it's just a really easy pose here. Checking out your range of motion, and as much as possible keeping your core kind of anchored and supportive. Grab that right foot with your right hand and pulsing side to side. You know, our hips in general are designed to have a great deal of range of motion. They're incredible. But a lot of us have lost some of that, sometimes because of injury and so on, arthritis, but a lot of it is just sort of lack of using them that way, and so hopefully we can free them up a little bit. Marvelous. All right, so now bring both knees into the belly and flex the feet, and I actually use my hands to help do this. So I'm going to try and take my right leg, and you can actually bring them out for a moment, but bring them back. Take that right leg across the left, okay, and keeping that left leg bent. So this right here is a basic, wonderful starting point and a way to explore. You know, you might not do the standing version, even the standing prep that I offer you later, and that's fine. See if you can hook your right foot in behind your left calf. And if not, or if that hurts, don't do it. Like if you're feeling a pull in your knee, the alternate to that is to just take that right foot and bring it in towards the left kind of outer shin or calf, if you will. And that just creates a powerful engagement in the thighs. Again, if you feel any impingement, that's where you want to kind of come out, you know, give yourself a little break, maybe go to bridge, and then we can explore the other side. So now I'm going to help my left knee over my right. My feet are flexed. My core is anchored, shoulder heads down. This is powerful. It takes energy. And then when you're ready, either hooking that left foot in behind the right, which I can notice like, oh, this is harder on this side, was easier on the other side for me. Okay. And so I'm going to anchor that left foot in towards my right shin. And it's funny, you know, I'm one of those people who find right, left really easy. We all have our challenges. That's not one of mine. But it's funny, when you get into this kind of position, I'm almost confused about which foot is which. It's really funny. So, all right, go ahead and unwind. Let's just briefly maybe press to a bridge, or you could go to a happy baby, or whatever your body calls for. And then right here on the floor, we're also just going to do the arms. Okay, so I'm going to take my arms out, and then I'm going to cross them, right arm over left. And I want you to see, can you get your upper arm of the right above your left elbow? So you're trying to make an X above the elbows, okay? The higher above the elbows you get, the easier trying to make the eagle arms will be. And then what you're going to do is bring those hands, like you're bringing the backs of the hands, almost trying to bring them towards each other, and then see if you can make a hook with your left hand essentially onto the pad of that right thumb. Is kind of where we're aiming for, okay? Let's unwind and we'll try the other side. I like to think of this as adult twister by yourself. So as you're ready, crossing left over right. Make a cross a couple of times. And then basically keep those, another way to think about it is to keep spiraling the arms around until you can hook that right hand in behind the left pad. And breathe and notice, and you can slide the elbows a little up and down, by the way. And again, if this is ouchy, like you kind of recognize a pull in the joint or something, just don't do it, right? We can again always do the alternate to eagle is just to be in prayer hands, the alternate to the eagle arms. All right, come on up with me if you would. We're going to, let's see, oh wait, I want to come on to table pose, that's right. I was going to come up to standing, but forgot my own plan. All right, folks, so table pose, intelligent hands, shoulder heads anchor down. And let's just actually do a little cow cat. Cow cat's never a bad idea. It was fun. In fact, I read an article years ago where they interviewed these, very accomplished yogis, people who do like 10 hours of yoga a day and yoga competitions, whatever that is, right? And they asked what their favorite poses were, and people were like, or cow cat pose, child's pose, corpse pose. And I thought that was very telling. Very, very simple, very healthful postures. All right, so when you're ready, please hold in your stable table. And that means that I'm in my core enough that I kind of don't need my hands. As you're ready, inhale, lift that right hand and left knee. Exhale, return. Inhale, left hand, right knee. As you return, notice all of a sudden kind of a calm steadiness, right? That you're not having to compensate for the weight out to, being unsupported. Let's do the same now, except extending those limbs, hold, find stability, make sure you haven't dropped, and then slowly take those limbs out to the side a little bit. And just notice the parts of you that are working. Hopefully it's not the tongue. Tip of the tongue is at the roof of the mouth. And back to center and return to table. Inhaling left arm, right leg. Again, notice if you collapsed, you should be able to essentially kind of lift that right hand. Take them out to the side. Which muscles are working? Hopefully not the neck. Return to center and then back. Good. We're going to do a little add-on. Take those arms and legs, or one and the other extend. So right arm, left leg is what I'm doing. Take them out to the side. Big inhale. Exhaling, I want you to bring your right elbow and left knee towards each other. Compress. Inhale, extend out to that angle. Exhale, bring them together, compress. Crossing that left knee all the way towards the right edge of the mat. Let's do one more. Belly to spine. Good. And release. Roll out that wrist. And inhaling, extend left arm, right leg. Bring it out to the side. Exhale, bring it in towards center. Compress. Inhale, extend. Exhale, compress. Last one. Is there more? And release. Good. You can roll out those wrists anytime you like. We're going to take it up to downward facing dog. And if you want to do a little cow cat to get there, you're welcome to do that, because a cow cat's never a bad thing to throw in. Downward dog. And in fact, if we're ever doing something that's just not right, it's too much pressure on wrists for you or whatever, cow cat's a great destination. All right. So I'm going to ask you to first find your stable dog. And when I do downward dog almost every morning, I take time and I pedal and I explore. Sometimes I take my feet out to the side, and this is just a great way to explore what's in the body, loosen it up. Good. And now please set your drishti gaze, your attention, directly between your feet, And as you slowly lift that right leg, I hope you can be noticing if there's any shifts, any collapsing. We're going to now take that leg down to the floor and to the right. So I'm going to slowly lower it down and plant it. My floor is pretty darn slippery, so please make sure that you know how yours is going to respond and whether you'll lose your grip. I'm going to slowly take my right arm and reach open to the sky. And this is a weird position, right? This isn't our normal dog. It's not the things we're used to. And exhaling, return that foot. Good. Left leg slowly flying. Notice, can you reroute your right heel? Is your sternum drawn in and back? Drishti gaze. And you might even watch, actually with your vision, as you slowly set that left foot down and kind of repress the torso towards that dog alignment before then opening that left arm. Now, if this is just too much on the shoulder, just bring that hand out to the side and kind of rotate a little bit that way. The point is just we're really taking ourselves off of our normal center point of balance. Good. When you're ready, come all the way to the floor. You can roll wrists beforehand or once you're on down there. Go ahead and rest your head a moment. And return, please, to breath attention. Good. We're going to do a little jet airplane. And again, you might have your own version. You're welcome to go right there. I'm going to just talk through those basics. Fingertips tenting, anchoring through the pelvis, shoulder heads anchoring, inhaling, extending the spine forward from the pelvis. Exhaling, returning. Maybe you feel like adding arms, reaching back. This is a great place to really work that shoulder blade sandwich. Boom. This is huge. We're developing this part of the back that's the part that actually keeps us from hunching. And we get to notice as we look at people, sometimes it's not even people as they age. Boy, there's a lot of teenagers hunched forward. But we notice generally as we age that a lot of people's shoulders come forward of their hips, and then the head drops forward, and it creates a lot of challenges. So one point of attention that we want, one last time, is that incredible elongation through the body that really activates the back. Good. And release, plant the hands, press back to your child's pose. And we're going to do a little shoulder stretch here to help prepare us for eagle. So when you're ready, please lift up a little. If this doesn't work for you, by the way, in child's, remember you could do a standing version. So if like your shoulders don't like this or whatever, you can't get down on the floor, you could be crossing one arm. Otherwise, lifting up, please, and then taking one arm in underneath the other into this version of thread the needle. And as you are here, just kind of move, find your best version, and then please draw a deep breath into your upper back. And lift the head a little so that you can safely unwind, and we'll take the other arm through. Breathing, noticing, again, you might be kind of moving in and out. Different people will find the different angles and options here more appealing. It just really depends on where your tension is residing. And in order to come out again, please lift the head first and return. Good. Go ahead and tuck your tailbone to come into your table pose once more. As you're ready, inhaling cow, exhaling cat. I'm going to take us right into gate pose, which is, along with eagle, a very fun balancing and pose and challenge. And again, I feel like kind of can put us a little off our game in a good way. All right, so step back with your left foot 90 degrees and look underneath you and make sure your right hand, knee, and foot are all pointing at your left heel. Also, make sure that you're engaging your right hip or butt cheek towards that left edge of the mat, because it's that stabilizing of that pelvis that will actually give you balance. Shoulder head anchoring down the back, and then slowly bring that left hand to the hip, open. Once you get those shoulders stacked, maybe you raise that arm up, making your gate. I often keep my vision on the floor because that's easier on my neck. See if you can lift that lower rib cage a little more. If I were there with you physically, I might say, you know, hey, I'm going to put my hand on your upper rib cage. Press up into my touch. And you might just find, I don't actually need that floor hand. Or, maybe I can do this without that back leg. Or, what would happen if I tried to lift both of them? Hopefully some quivering, maybe some falling, and that's all good. All right, we're going to come in on the other side. So when you're ready, take your right foot back 90. Squeeze that left hip towards that right edge of the mat. This should make you feel very strong, that you can kind of almost squeeze your thighs together even though they're not touching. Opening up through that right arm, again, stacking. Taking your vision wherever you'd like. Breathing, thinking about that lower rib cage raising to the upper. And investigating. How much pressure is in that floor hand? If it's a lot, that means some part of you isn't probably engaging to support the structure. Again, the best thing you can check is, number one, that back leg is anchoring. Number two, that hip is really towards the right edge, that shoulder's down, but then that rib cage is up. And that should give you a little bit of flight. And then you can check the back leg. You'll find this easiest with your vision on the floor. And come on back. Lovely. Inhale, exhale, downward facing dog. Opportunity for dog series if you'd like it. And we're inhaling plank. If this is your first one of the day, particularly of the week, please take it knees down. Exhaling chaturanga, elbows in, nose connects before the hips. Inhaling, either cobra or upward facing dog. And exhaling, downward facing dog. And slowly walking the hands back to the feet. And here I have the great joy of having my attention on a peony. Inhaling, root and rise. I was so excited to pick my first double-petaled peony. I know many of you know how obsessed I am with them, so thank you for celebrating with me. And you might notice that I actually put the flower, often I'll have flowers back here behind me, but I specifically put it there today so that I would get to be seeing it the whole time that I'm sharing yoga with you. So, eagle. All right, you ready? First of all, we know that all of the ability to handle any standing posture comes from our capacity and our attention in our feet. So I'm going to take the time to place the big toes, see if I can lift the other toes. And that tells me I've got a lot of downward anchoring in that inner foot. And then I'd love to anchor the other toes too, spread, right? That gives me a wider point of balance versus close together. And so we're going to imitate some of that we were playing with on our back, right? So first of all, I'm going to have you bring your right knee up into your belly. Notice I've got my foot flexed. There's nothing floppy there. I'm going to use my hands to encourage my right knee to cross over my left, okay? And I'm kind of scooching it like that. Then I'm going to see if I can hook my right foot in behind the calf. And again, if I can't, or it just feels better if I don't, then I'm going to just flex that foot and bring it in against the shin bone. All right, so we're just going to do this a moment. No arms yet. I just want you to have them available at your hips and explore. And when you're ready to come out, I like to kind of take flight, and we'll do the other side. So steadying your breathing. It's really the mark of a yogi that when we're doing poses, you see people in all kinds of amazing positions that I'll probably never get into, but they look peaceful and calm, right? They're not screwing up their face and that sort of thing. And so the breath also, okay? So deep and abiding inhale. Strong exhale, but from that core. Nothing but equanimity in the face, we hope. As you are ready,
Sink in on that standing leg. You've got to have that standing leg bent to give room for that crossing leg to cross. And again, sometimes I sort of help use my hands to manipulate things a little bit. And again, it's a balancing pose, so if you want to, have a counter or something next to you, if you feel safer, go for it. Otherwise, I love falling out and falling back in. Okay, got that foot crossed. Again, if you can't, don't worry about it. But it's interesting for me to notice this is the one I had the hard time crossing behind when we were on our backs, and I'm having an easier time standing. And maybe it's just that my hips and everything else got warmed up. Try and sit into it. Nice breath of equanimity. And take flight. All right. Let's do the arms on their own, standing. All right, so we're going to do that same crossing. Get as high up over the elbows as you can and spiral around. And then I'd like you to very slowly take the elbows up and down, very slowly. If you feel anything ouchy, kind of in the shoulder joints, up in here, just don't make that movement. Instead, just settle into the alignment that feels good. One of the gifts of this is a great stretch through the upper back if you breathe into that back lung area that we were talking about last week. I was really talking about front and back lungs. And that's a fun way to advance your practice. It's really cool. So let's do the other side, crossing left over right. And as you're ready, cross and rotate. See if you can get the palms, to make a connection. Making that slow journey up and down. And remember, you might have your gaze, your drishti gaze kind of out beyond the hands. Same thing, by the way, if you're in prayer hands or if you want to be here. This could be, I hadn't thought of that until now, but if you're wanting to approximate some of the kind of visual focus that we get during eagle pose, you might have your hands in prayer, but with the thumbs right at that third eye point rather than here, because it gives you a similar ability to sort of see past the hands. It's kind of cool. All right, you ready? We're going to do the legs and add the arms. Again, I usually use my arms to help my legs cross, so I always do the legs first. I've seen people teach it different ways. So let's hunker down. Good. Get nice action between those inner thighs as if you were squeezing a block. Nice action in the floor with that inner foot. And a lot of my attention, even though I'm not going to be looking at my feet in this pose, a lot of my attention is in that inner foot. All right, lifting, crossing, exploring the foot hook or the pressing into the side. Good, settle in, try to have your hips straight forward again. Then taking the left arm over right, so it's opposite of the leg alignment. And set your drishti gaze past the hands. Soft smile, light connection, tip of the tongue. Ujjayi breath, even if you're wobbling. And I'm going to take flight out into a 5-pointed star position. Nice, take a nice deep breath here. Marvelous. And let's explore the other side. Left knee lifting. Nice strong core. That robot core is really going to help you here. Crossing, possibly hooking, restabilizing hips fairly much forward, crossing right arm over left, finding that hand alignment and setting your gaze past. Soft tongue. Is there a word or a mantra that you held earlier when I brought it up in the beginning of practice? You might bring that to your mind right here. What would happen if you raise your elbows a little bit to the height of the shoulders? One more big breath into your upper lungs and then spread out, 5-pointed star. Lovely. Adjust if you need to so you can take an even wider, deeper straddle, and we're going to come on forward fold and explore side to side.
This should feel pretty darn good after all of that work you asked of those inner thighs. That's a big part of what's creating the cross. It's also the ability of the outer leg, the IT band, and even into the glutes to release. So pigeon pose is actually one of the poses that helps our body kind of over time become looser in those muscles. You might hold to one side, deep attention on breath. And holding again when you're ready, if you would like, adding a twist. So I'm going to take my right leg straight, left knee bent. I'm going to walk my hands over towards that left foot, the bent leg one, and I'm going to rotate open right there. And I'm just trying to get my chest as open to the sky as I can. Return, and I'm going to walk to the other side. Strong core, strong straight leg, boom, and I'm going to rotate open. And release. I'm going to walk my feet in a little bit for yoga mudra. So I'm in a nice straddle forward fold. I'm going to intertwine those hands. I'm going to shoulder heads anchor down. And remember, if you can't get much further than this, that's where you want to grab that scarf or strap or whatever. Big inhale, exhale. See if you can straighten those arms. I'm amazed how much harder this is on days after I've done a lot of like canoeing or gardening or hauling of garbage or whatever, pulling a burdock. And release. Marvelous. Root and rise. Big butt squeeze. And prayer hands. Steady your breath and your attention on breath. All right, one last little bit of fun here. We'll do a standing quad stretch, but then I also wanted to give you the chance to explore taking that into dancer pose. This is again another kind of challenging, weird balancing pose. I don't know if it's weird. The eagle pose and gate pose definitely are weird for their own reasons. We're crossing, we're only on one side. Standing dancer a little bit less so, but it's still intense because it actually draws us into a pose that stretches multiple tight areas at once, and that always makes things a little harder. If for any reason this pose doesn't work well for your body, like it bothers your low back, sometimes that's because you're not engaging properly or you're trying to go too far. Other times it's just like, not right for my body today, in which case you could just do tree pose, which is always a great go-to for balancing. So we're going to do standing quad stretch first, and then we'll explore dancer. Here again, you could grab a counter or something like that. But you're going to clasp your right ankle with your right hand, and initially I've got my left hand on my hip, but as I feel ready I might just extend it forward as a counterpoint of balance. But a couple things to note. I don't want to be leaning forward at all in my standing quad stretch. I should look, if you took a photo of me, it would look like I was basically still just standing. And then I want to squeeze my glutes, and that's going to tuck my pelvis back into neutral. Right, when I went to grab my leg, I probably tilted my pubic bone and tailbone back. I'm going to bring it back into neutral, nice glute squeeze, and that's what is going to create the stretch into that right thigh. I can accentuate that by bringing that right knee back and making sure that it's in towards the standing leg. I don't want it winging out. I want it again to be almost as if I was still standing. And of course, breathing into that stretch. And release. Good. And then we'll go into the other side. So clasping that left foot, shoulder head anchoring. So there's really no effort in the neck here at all. Your hands have got a good grip on the ankle, but otherwise it's all coming through the core. And that includes all the way down into that rooting standing foot in the thigh. Breathe. One more breath here. See if you can bring the knee in towards the standing leg and back a little bit more. Deep belly breath and release. Good. And if you ever need just a brief counter pose, a little ragdoll often feels great on the back.
So standing dancer basically has all those same principles, and one of those main ones being that the hips are going to stay forward and that I'm not winging my knee out. That's the main kind of misalignment I often see people do because they are trying to get deeper in the pose. But once you've done that, you've actually lost the pose and the integrity, and you do put yourself at risk of injury and instability. So we don't want to do that. So go ahead and clasp that right knee. Find that stability with the pelvis so that the glutes are anchoring. They stay tight the whole time. This is basically like bow pose, same principles. Glutes stay anchored, shoulder heads down. And if you would like then to move towards standing dancer, you're just going to hinge at the hip until it's comfortable. If it's too much in that standing leg, hinge less. Hinge at the hip, pause, flare those yoga toes, and when you're ready, begin to press into the hand with your ankle, your right ankle. And if you want a little extra stretch, you can try pressing the foot a little towards the sky. You can breathe, keep deepening, and come out. I don't hold that pose usually more than 3 or 4 breaths. I don't see a reason to, and I think things just get a little tighter instead of being able to release after a certain point. So up to you. Same deal. I'm going to take that left ankle now in the left hand. I'm going to first find my standing quad stretch. Knee is in, hip bones forward. Soft tongue. Nice strong pushing away of the earth with that right leg so that I feel really strong and stable as I begin to hinge. It's like I'm trying to reach something off of a shelf in front. And when I feel ready, I might begin to add pressure with that left hand into the ankle into the left hand. Breathing, send the heart forward, ankle back, just like in bow. Maybe send that foot a little higher and come on out, ragdoll.
And obviously you were supposed to be breathing
during that. Okay, so speaking of breathing, we're moving towards the more restful part of our practice, restorative. My hope is that you've got what you need to be comfortable. You might just be on your back body, but a reminder that you could take legs up the wall, or even if you have a couch, for example, you could lay down with your butt to the floor, right to the edge of the couch, and then your knees up and your calves on the surface of the couch or the ottoman. And this can be a really nice restorative position. So please consider finding a shape that allows you to truly settle. One of the concepts that we have, again, in yoga is that the experience of the body inevitably is the experience of our spirit, our mind, our emotions, that you can't have them divided. You can't have a body that's on hold and tight and then have a being that is light and joyful. So just the value of really supporting the body and getting comfortable can't be overstated, really. Whether it's covering yourself with a shawl, putting a bolster beneath you, in some of the restorative positions under the neck, or under the knees, or along the spine, or in resting deer. All of those are really, really effective. And when you're ready, I'm going to invite you to turn your attention again to that word or mantra that you might have held at the beginning of practice. And I'm going to ask you to just sit with that word or energy a moment. And if you allow yourself to think that word, or maybe even see it almost like it's on the screen of your mind's eye, please in these moments observe the effect on your body. Does it make you want to take a deeper breath? Does it make you want to smile? Is it a relief? Does it make you tear up? Does it just make you feel peaceful? What's there? And so please notice if the word maybe doesn't feel like it's resonating the way that you would like or had hoped. And I'd encourage you to continue to play with words and see if you can come up with one that for this time of your life really has poignancy. That, again, it has an effect. Maybe you feel it in the belly, the chest. Our body knows. The wisdom of the body, it's like our antenna, I like to say, will give us feedback if we have our attention there and we're curious and we're patient and we're willing to be present with it. So during these few minutes of Shavasana, or if you prefer to be in seated meditation, asking you to circulate and just sort of absorb that energy, that thought form that you were working with. Give yourself to gravity. Tune your attention inward, gaze up and in, and please let go of all breath control, the breath becoming slow and steady like a baby sleeping. Is there any particular part of your body where you feel the resonance of that thought form, that mantra? And please don't be frustrated with yourself or the word if you feel like you're like, I don't know, I can't discern anything. It really takes practice. It's like our body awareness is like almost developing any other muscle. Right? In the beginning, sometimes you're like, hey, tricep, I'm trying to talk to you, right? It's the same way with our body awareness. And if the majority of our attention is always on something outside of ourselves, other people and what they're doing, the physical world around us, and if it's rarely settled on, how am I feeling? How am I? What's true for me today? Where does that show up in my body? What's going on? Then it's something we just simply need to practice and we'll get better at it. If you are still enjoying that inward focus and it's feeling useful, please stay longer. Otherwise, I'll be closing our practice with our ohms and the bowl, and I'm also delighted to have you join in or simply let the vibration move around you. You might place your hands on your belly, your heart. Thank you so much for coming to the mat with me today. Let's gather a long inhale. Om Shanti Shanti. Om Peace Peace. Namaste.